So under the codes, whatever is now passed, all the four codes, in general, I don't think it is a comprehensive list, right? It is more just to give a taste of it. So what would be considered in favor of the employers? So under the IR code, now mass casual leave is considered as strike, right? I think this has been a long time request of the employers. So now the strike, the definition for the term strike, I think, which is defined under the Industrial Dispute Act currently. Now it is moving to Industrial Relations Code, right? So the mass casual leave will now be considered as strike. That is one. Number two, willful go slow. It will be considered as unfair labor practice on the part of the workers. So the management will have right to take action, disciplinary action against those people, right? That is number two. Number three is increase in threshold limit. Again, factories, I think we discussed, if it is done, manufacturing process is done with the aid of power, then the minimum number should be 10. If it is done without the aid of power, the minimum number should be 20. That is the provisions of the current Factories Act. That 10 and 20 is now getting increased to 20 and 40. So I think that should definitely help the MSMEs, right? Similarly, contract labor, the current Contract Labor Regulation Abolition Act, it applies if there are 20 or more contract labor, contract workers, both for the establishment and the particular contractor, right? That threshold limit of 20 is now getting increased to 50. I think that should help the employers. Again, retrenchment and layoff, we all know, currently the famous Chapter 5B under the Industrial Disputes Act. If there are 100 or more workers, particularly with respect to factories, mines and plantations, right, then the permission is to be obtained from the authority concerned for doing layoff or for retrenching the persons, right, or for closure of the industry, right? So that 100 is now getting increased to 300. Similarly, the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act, if there are 100 or more workers, then the Standing Orders Act will be applicable, right? Now that threshold limit is getting increased to 300, from 100 to 300, similar to Chapter 5B, right? So I think these things in a way should help the employers, particularly the MSMEs, right? Then I think people managements were asking for flexible employment, engaging people on flexible basis. One form is contract labor, right? So we can entrust the job to a contractor, right? So then the contractor in turn will bring the people to do the work. So, and the employer will always have the right to terminate the contract, right? With whatever conditions mentioned in the class, in the contract, right? So that will not be retrenchment, or they cannot, the contract workers cannot raise industrial dispute because they are not workers under the ID Act, right? Another form of flexible employment is fixed term employment. When we say fixed term employment, taking persons for a specific period for a job which is of permanent in nature, right? So currently it is not possible. Only through courts, I think this is made possible. I think this is also, this should also support the employers. Then permission to employ women employees during night shift. I think that is currently that is not permitted, particularly under the Factories Act, Section 66(1)(b), right? That prevents engaging women workers during night time beyond 7 p.m. and before 6 a.m. Right? So it is not possible except in Tamil Nadu. But there is a judgment in Tamil Nadu given by the Honorable Madras High Court, maybe under R. Vasanta's case, right? They said this particular section is unconstitutional, right? So except in Tamil Nadu, it is not possible to engage women workers in factories beyond 7 p.m., right? But now I think the code permits, so it is possible now. But of course, with the consent of the women employees, women workers. Then common definitions, lot of terms, not only employers, wages, term employee, term employer. I think all these will have common definitions now for all the four codes. And electronic form of maintenance of records, right? And online processing. I think that should automatically bring process easiness, transparency, accountability, consistency, and kind of uniformity in whatever we do, right? So this will also in turn check on the undue advantage taken by any of the stakeholders. That is possible. So now I think electronic records or electronic form of submission of papers application, it is now recognized. And reduction in volume of transactional activities, I think we need not do registration under each act separately. It is sufficient if we have some common registration. Similarly, license. Then maintenance of registers. Number of registers is coming down. Number of returns to be submitted is coming down, right? And deemed approval provisions, particularly with respect to if you are submitting the draft standing orders, I think the authority has to respond within 60 days. Otherwise, it would be deemed to have been approved, right? So then provision for compounding of offense. Of course, this is only for the first time, right? So 50% of the maximum fine prescribed that should be paid to a special officer who will be appointed. So they can, the employer can come out, right? So the compounding of offense, it is also possible now. So these are all certain things. I'm again saying this is not comprehensive, right? These are all certain things which will go in favor of the employers.